This class is Heraldry for Amtgard and how to apply it. Heraldry is a unique creation of your own personalized logo, or device as they're often called, and these are for either yourself, for your chapter, for your kingdom, fighting company, or household use. Heraldry can be used to add distinction and individuality to your own items, such as tunics, belt favors, and larger items such as chairs and banners. In the High Middle Ages, it was used to display not just identity, but also rank, battlefield allegiance, a family, and various symbols with crests and coats of arms. With the focus on heraldry as it applies to Amtgard, and for simplicity, we'll be specifically talking about the device and shields, and only a few other elements that go along with shields, not the whole crest and mottos and everything like that. Just, again, keeping it real simple for everyone. So how do you create your heraldry or device? And your heraldry can be as simple or as complex, as colorful or monochromatic as you would like it, but it should be the image that people know you for. A word of warning, however, is if your device is overly complicated and it comes time for you or somebody else to go ahead and add it onto a shield, a tunic, what have you, it also is going to be complicated to apply. So general rule of thumb is to keep it simple. As Amtgard has a fantastical aspect of it, we don't have to stick to just a strict historical design. We can add those fantasy elements into it, and it opens up your options to whatever you want. So the proper that you choose, which is the actual device, should be something that either fits your name, a symbol, just even a symbol that you like, or a reference to an old nickname, current nickname, obviously. And then it could be something that you just enjoy, such as if you play the violin, a violin, or if you were in band, it could be, whatever instrument you played in band, football, what have you. Whatever works best for you and that you like. Using my own heraldry for example, and you can see this in the handout guide, mine was actually inspired by an anime called Macross Plus. It was an older anime, not a lot of people know it or familiar with it. It was actually an advertisement within the anime for one of the characters. I just really liked the design of it, the simplicity of the lines and everything like that, and I played around with it, put it in Paint Shop, used line draws until I got it looking the way that I wanted it to look like. It is a lot different from the original design, and on accident, it accidentally had some historical basis as well. The references that are used in the handout again are the Cross of St. James and the Cross Cliche. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that. And again, this piece for me had nothing to do with my name, my background, anything like that. I just really like the design, so that's the one that I used. It is really easy to recreate. However, since it is a lot of straight lines, if I get those lines wrong, it can be a little finicky. So something else to kind of keep in mind when you're making your heraldry. Another example, again in the handout, is personal heraldry, but then adding in elements of somebody else's heraldry, which is Dame Alona Two Trees heraldry, which she let me use, thank you. This heraldry combines not only her personal device, which is the two trees entwining, but it also has the tool stars from her beltline family. So that just combines it's it's not a crazy design. It's a very simplistic design. All things have you, albeit the tree's a little bit complicated, but hey, it fits her name. But it works for her, and she wanted to have that combination with her family in there as well. So really nice. Another example is House Ouroboros. It was a household that we used to have, that I belonged to. It's now defunct, unfortunately. But our heraldry was the 3 colors. Each one of us, of the founding members, actually chose the color. We had a little bit of conflict, if I remember correctly, with the colors looking a little weird. So we had to play around with those and come to an agreement. And then the Ouroboros symbol, which is the snake or the dragon eating its own tail. And then that's all combined in there as well. Once we actually started having members added on, each one of our crests was actually added on to the bottom of it. So you can see each one of those displayed, and you can see just, again, another example of the different kinds of heraldry as well that are out there. Lost my place, I apologize. On a more historic design, so taking away from the fantastical aspect, is going into the actual medieval concept of it. And again, we're just going to touch on it. We're not going to go terribly in depth because we don't want to confuse anybody. It can be very confusing because you can go onto different websites, and while you're looking at those websites, they can give you completely different terms for the same thing you just saw with another name on a different website. So it can be a little bit of a challenge. The general rules and everything, though, are outlined, and in the handout there are some really great websites that I found while doing some research for this that you can take a look at. And there's just so much out there. So, you know, even if you just want to keep it very plain and simplistic, you may just want to go ahead and add a little piece here or a little piece there and bring it all together, or you may not. It's completely up to you. You know, again, these are our own individual devices, so be happy with what you make is really what it comes down to. So the first thing we'll start with is the shields. The shields are literally just like what they sound. They're a shield. So they come in several different flavors or designs. And those can range from, you know, again, since we have the fantastical aspect, you could use a fantasy shield if you wanted to. But the regular shield styles are really, really neat. So there's the heater shield, a French shield, you know, sky's the limit. Go ham. Have at it. But it's kind of nice to have those shields to work with, because then you can actually fit your design into the shield and kind of play around with it, see how it looks like. Or again, you could just use a circle or a heater shield. You know, you could claim that historical aspect of it. So again, just depends on how you want it to look like on there. And then we also have charges, which is again your device. They can be, again, for the more historical aspect of things, they can be a person, a geometric design, an animal, or a plant. Those were all very, very common in the historical designs. You know, even part, so you could have a hand, or you could have the whole arm, or the whole person, angels, skunks, foxes. They were a little bit nuts too back then, don't worry, it's fine. But if you can take a look at a lot of historical aspects, or a lot of historical concepts, you can see that those designs are varied and very heavily personalized. So if you want to choose a device, you still have a ton to choose from, even if you're going for the medieval aspect of it. And then we get the colors, excuse me, or they're also called tinctures back then. So there is actually a rule. It is really called the rule of tinctures, or the rule of colors. It's metal should not be put on metal, nor color on color. So this means that you can't have gold and silver just on top of each other, and you also can't have black and blue combined directly together. Again, if you're going for the more fantasy aspect, that's perfectly fine. Do what you want to do. Otherwise, if you do want to do the historical aspect, just kind of keep that in mind. There are also furs as well that they could add into those to kind of mix it up a lot. So they call it the rule of tincture. However, that rule could actually be broken, and it was actually broken a lot. So you can see those historical aspects online. There's a couple of guides for them. I don't think anybody's going to hold you too strict to it, but if you're looking to go for that full-on medieval, that's a rule that you want to go ahead and keep in mind, that they actually did follow that. And that's actually documented in several manuscripts from medieval period time where they followed that law, and that was a rule that they had because they were very strict about heraldry back then, just because that's the way that they knew you. So there is a list available on the Gutenberg.org site. Again, the link is in the document that goes straight to the list of them. And there's also a quick guide. It doesn't cover all the colors, doesn't cover all the furs on there, but it just kind of gives you an example of what they're talking about. But, you know, again, no metal on metal, no color on color. Keep them separated. If you're mixing matching one or the other, you know, have at it. And then we've got partitions of the fields. So this is where you can kind of get really interesting with your shield, kind of mix it up, combine different elements of there. So if you do want to have that family side, and then you want to have your own personal heraldry, you can break that up within there. So they also let you use other colors as well because they're divided up. So there's a couple examples again in the handout. Stuff like Restwald's, it's a party of Salterweiss of ghouls in Ermine. Salterweiss being with arms extended diagonally. And then you've got Saunders' 3 elephants per chevron, which is literally a shield, a chevron right in the middle of it, and then elephant, elephant, elephant. Elephants everywhere. Again, elephants were used as one of the devices. And then you also have Aston's party sable and silver chevron wise. I thought it was a really interesting one. Unfortunately, the pictures were all in black and white, so you don't really get the colors, and also colors were sometimes described differently back in the medieval times than what we know them as now. But it's just a really neat design, and there's tons, again, on the Gutenberg website if you go there, which is where these examples in the handout came from, where it shows you all of these, and they got really creative. And obviously, you know, there's hundreds of people out there, so they had to get a little bit creative with what they did. And then how do you actually use your device? So most of the time what we know is, or what we see rather, is people use it on tunics, belt favors, sometimes not so much banners. I don't think we don't use too often. I've seen some of them, so it's great. Yeah, tunics, belt favors, and shields. Shield covers, I should say. Or plasti dip shields even. So we see them in those, but there are a lot of different ways that you can actually apply your heraldry. Ask the good folks over at ANS Anonymous, an Amtgard group, what they have designed with their heraldry, and in the handout you can see several different examples of different things, which was great. There were some really awesome things. They're not all pictured here even, but if you go back and look at my thread where I asked for some suggestions or for some pictures, you can see all of those laid out. So, you know, there's stained glass on a wool cloak, a bookmark, a box, which I've done the box one too. It's really great because, you know, boxes you can carry stuff in, or you can make them, the one that I was use the example of actually has electronics inside of it. So it lights up and makes sounds. It's great. It's fantastic. So there's really no wrong or there's no right to do it, but putting your own emblem on your things makes it a little bit more personalized, and everybody knows that it's yours. So if I had my symbol on my stuff and for whatever reason I got up and I walked away and I forgot completely about it, you know, somebody would know that that's mine because it has my symbol on it. Likewise, you know, in unfortunate cases where something gets up and walks away on its own, your symbol's already on there as well, so people can recognize that and get it returned to you as well. So really what it comes down to is don't be afraid of making a device and maybe thinking about changing it later on. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to stick with one device. You really don't. If there's something that you really enjoy, you know, use that. Even if it seems campy or silly, it's your device. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. If you need any help with creating those, you know, you have plenty of artisans that are available Amtgard wide, but also check with your kingdom, your local group. You know, you never know who's going to be available that can help you out with that. Because there's some really, really creative people in Amtgard. And again, play around with it, take a look, color features, you know, do a 4-way split, partition it off, and then that way you can have your heraldry, your park's heraldry, your kingdom's heraldry, and, you know, maybe random animal. Who knows? But again, just take your time, do what you want, and have fun making your device. Get that symbol out there, you know, bring a little bit more oomph to Amtgard by having that on all your stuff so people know who you are and whose things they are as well. Alright, Amtgard, have a great night.